Kepri spire did not merely float above the planet, it judged it. The orbital capital of the Aurelian Dominion was a masterpiece of living glass and suspended gravity, a glittering needle threading the upper atmosphere where the air was thin and expensive. Down below, the planet was a swirl of storms and resource pits, but up here, everything was sterile, silent, and blindingly bright. Vera walked the promenade of the 17th sector with the rhythmic precision of a metronome. Her boots, reinforced with kinetic dampeners, made no sound on the translucent floor. Yet the crowd parted for her like water breaking against a stone. She wore the midnight blue armor of the Intelligence Directorate, the silver piping along the shoulders marking her as a senior operative. She was tall, even for an Aurelian, with skin the color of polished obsidian that seemed to drink the artificial light, and eyes that were a piercing bioluminescent violet. To the citizens bowing their heads as she passed, she was a protector. She was the wall between order and chaos. To herself, she was simply tired. Above the promenade, massive holographic ribbons curled through the air like digital smoke. They looped the same 3 messages in elegant flowing script that burned against the retinas. Purity keeps us safe. Differences decay. Report the unclean. Vera blinked, dismissing the overlay with a thought command to her ocular implant. But the words lingered in her mind. She had spent 10 years hunting dissidents who dared to suggest that the Dominion's isolationist laws were stagnant. She had crushed cells of sympathizers who wanted to open the borders to the chaotic, violent species known as humans. She was efficient. She was lethal. She was the perfect instrument of the High Council. And lately, she had begun to wonder if the hollowness in her chest was a defect in her biology or a defect in her world. A chime sounded in her inner ear, sharp and urgent. It was a high-security alert, bypassing the local enforcement grid and routing directly to her neural feed. Illegal biological signature detected. Species, human. Location, the archive of first contact. Vera stopped. The crowd behind her stumbled to a halt, terrified to get too close. A human? Here? It was impossible. The orbital defense grid incinerated unauthorized ships before they even breached the gravity well. For a human to be on Kepri Spire meant they had not only survived the grid but had navigated the docking clamps, the bioscanners, and the armed patrols. She tapped the comms unit on her collar. "Sector 4 is compromised," she said, her voice cool and dangerously calm. "Seal the transit tubes. I am taking point." She did not run. She accelerated. Vera activated the gravity assist nodes on her belt, reducing her weight by 40%. She leaped over a railing, dropping 3 levels through the open atrium of the shopping district, landing in a crouch that cracked the decorative tiling. She ignored the gasps of the civilians and sprinted toward the maglev transport tubes. The archive of first contact was a mausoleum of history, a restricted zone filled with relics from the war that had established the Dominion's supremacy. It was quiet, dark, and politically sensitive. When Vera burst through the airlock, her weapon, a kinetic pulse rifle that hummed with suppressed energy, was already raised. The museum was vast, a cavern of shadowed plinths and stasis fields. The air smelled of old ozone and dust. "Come out," Vera said. Her helmet sensors swept the room, layering thermal imaging over her vision. There is nowhere to run. The airlocks are cycled shut. There was a clatter from behind a display case housing the charred remains of an ancient atmospheric engine. Vera moved. She was a blur of blue and silver, vaulting over a display of primitive projectile weapons. She spotted the heat signature, a chaotic, panicked smudge of red and orange, scrambling toward the ventilation ducts. The figure was small compared to an Aurelian, clad in a mismatched suit of scavenged vacuum armor that looked like it had been held together with industrial adhesive and prayer. "Stop!" Vera commanded. The human did not stop. He fired a grappling line at the ceiling vent. Vera fired a warning shot that severed the line in midair. The human fell, crashing into a display of ceremonial glass shards. He rolled, scrambling upright with a speed that surprised her, and pulled a device from his belt. It wasn't a weapon. It was a data core, older than Vera herself, chained to his wrist with a maglock cuff. She leveled her rifle at his chest. "One more step and I vaporize you," she said. The human froze. He raised his hand slowly, the data core dangling from his wrist like a heavy pendulum. He was panting. His helmet retracted to reveal a face that was strikingly, horrifyingly biological. He had pale skin masked with grime, a jaw seemingly cut from granite, and eyes the color of oxidized copper. He looked soft, vulnerable, and completely out of place in the sleek perfection of the spire. "Okay," the human said. His voice was rough, scraping against the silence. "You made your point. Nice shooting, by the way. Do you practice on moving targets, or am I just special?" Vera did not lower the rifle. "Identify yourself, Cal," the human said. "Cal Rook. And you are?" "Wait, let me guess. The welcoming committee?" "I have to say, the brochures promised a warmer reception, maybe a fruit basket." "You are trespassing on a Dominion capital," Vera said, her finger tightening on the trigger. "You are a biological contaminant. Give me one reason why I should not execute you where you stand." Cal Rook looked at the gun, then back at her face. He swallowed, the humor flickering for a second to reveal stark terror, before he plastered the grin back on. "Because I'm the only one who knows how to open this," he said, shaking his wrist to rattle the data core. "And if you shoot me, the failsafe fries the drive. You look like someone who cares about information. Am I right? You have that I read the manual look about you." Vera narrowed her eyes. Her sensors were finally getting a clear reading on him. He was not wearing stealth combat gear. He had no hidden weapons, no kinetic shielding, but he was hurt. Her thermal scan picked up hot spots of inflammation across his chest and neck, radiation burns. He was dying, slowly, his cells unraveling from exposure to an unshielded engine, yet he was standing here making bad jokes. He was protecting the data core with his body. He had turned his shoulder so that the drive was shielded by his torso, exposing his vital organs to her aim instead of the metal box. "You are irradiated," she observed. Cal flinched. "Yeah. Well, economy class travel isn't what it used to be. Look, can we talk about this? I am not a terrorist. I am just a guy who found something he wasn't supposed to." "That is exactly what a terrorist would say," Vera countered. She stepped closer, the muzzle of her rifle inches from his chest. She expected him to beg. Instead, he looked at the purity propaganda poster glowing on the wall behind her, a pristine Aurelian family looking toward a golden sun. He let out a short, sharp laugh. "Purity," he muttered. "You guys really believe that garbage, don't you? Purity keeps you safe. It is a nice slogan. Fits on a bumper sticker. But it is a cage. Lady, and you are all inside it." "Silence!" Vera snapped. She struck him with the barrel of the rifle, a controlled blow to the solar plexus designed to incapacitate. Cal folded, gasping, dropping to his knees. Vera moved instantly, spinning him around and securing his wrist behind his back with energy binders. She tapped her comms, target secured, requesting immediate extraction to Interrogation Wing 4. "Copy that. Senior operative," the dispatcher replied. "Transport inbound." Vera hauled Cal to his feet. He groaned, breathless, but looked up at her with a defiant, reckless glint in his eyes. "You are making a mistake," he wheezed. "I never make mistakes," Vera said. The interrogation chamber was a circle of white, seamless metal. There were no corners, no shadows, only the empathic light panels that lined the walls. The technology was designed to mirror the prisoner's stress levels, shifting from soothing blue to agitated red, to destabilize them psychologically. Right now, the room was pulsing a nauseating shade of sickly yellow-green. Cal Rook sat in the center chair, the restraints locking his arms and legs. Vera stood behind the observation glass for a moment, watching him. He was shivering. The radiation sickness was advancing, but he was fighting the tremors. She entered the room. The door hissed shut, sealing them in silence. Vera placed the data core on the table. She had tried to access it, but the encryption was unlike anything in the Dominion database. It was chaotic, layered, and unmistakably human. "Unlock it," she ordered. Cal looked up. His lip was split where he had hit the floor earlier. "I can't," he said. "Not until I know you are actually listening." "I am the one asking the questions," Vera said. "Why are you here? Who sent you? Nobody sent me." Cal said, "I am a salvager. I pick through the junk you high and mighty aliens throw away. I found this core in a debris field near the 7th moon. It was inside a derelict council ship, a science vessel that was supposed to have been destroyed in the war." Vera paused. The official history stated that no council ships were lost in that sector. "That is a lie," she said. "Is it?" Cal leaned forward as much as the restraints allowed. The room's light shifted to a deeper, bruised purple. "Look at the timestamp on the casing. That drive isn't from the war. It is from 6 months ago." Vera glanced at the drive. She had noted the serial number, but she hadn't checked the manufacture date. She did so now. Zooming in with her ocular implant, her heart skipped a beat. The date stamped on the alloy was indeed recent. 6 months ago, that vessel was carrying biological cargo, Cal said, his voice dropping, losing its joking edge. Human cargo, people taken from the border colonies. Vera felt a spike of cold anger. "We do not take humans. We exterminate those who breach our space, and we do not capture." "Yeah, that is what they tell you," Cal said. "But tell me, officer, why are humans so good at surviving? We live on rocks you guys wouldn't touch. We eat garbage. We heal fast. Your council calls us a disease, but in secret, they call us a resource." He looked her dead in the eye. "They are farming us," Cal whispered. "They are harvesting genetic traits, immune resilience, adaptability. They are splicing us to fix your own genetic stagnation. The purity laws? They aren't to keep us out. They are to keep you from seeing what they are doing to us in the labs." Vera stepped back. It was absurd. It was heresy. It went against every doctrine she had been raised on since the hatching nurseries. And yet, she remembered the mission reports she had filed that were redacted. She remembered the scientists she had escorted to black sites that didn't exist on any map. "You are lying," she said. But her voice lacked its usual steel. The room's light flared a blinding, honest white. The empathic sensors were reading Cal's biology. He was terrified. He was in pain, but he was not deceiving her. The machine confirmed it. He believed every word he was saying. Vera's comms unit beeped. It was her handler, High Inquisitor Kalen, Operative Vera. The voice was smooth, cultured, and devoid of warmth. "Status report. Subject is secured," Vera said, keeping her eyes on Cal. "He claims to have evidence of a council conspiracy involving biological experimentation." There was a pause on the line. A pause that lasted 1 second too long. Disregard his ramblings, Kalen said. The human is a known psychological agitator. You are to transfer him immediately to the correction division. Authorization code, Omicron 9 red. Vera froze. Omicron 9 red. She knew that code. It wasn't a prison. It wasn't a holding cell. The correction division was a euphemism for a biological incinerator used for hazardous waste. If she sent Cal there, he wouldn't be interrogated. He would be erased. Matter deconstructed at the molecular level. But, sir, Vera said slowly, he has a data core. It has high-level encryption. If we destroy him, we lose the key. The data is corrupt. Kalen snapped. Destroy it. Destroy the subject. Do not let him speak to anyone else. A transport team is 2 minutes out. Vera, do not fail me. The connection clicked off. Vera looked at Cal. He had heard the tone of the conversation, even if he couldn't hear the words. Correction division? Cal asked. Sounds charming. Does it come with a view? They are coming to kill you, Vera said. Cal slumped. Well, it was worth a shot. Suddenly, the lights in the room flashed red. A low thrumming sound vibrated through the floor. Vera's combat instincts screamed a warning before her sensors even registered the threat. Get down! She yelled. She dove toward the prisoner chair, tackling Cal just as the ventilation grate above them exploded. 3 small spherical drones dropped into the room. They looked like standard maintenance blooms, harmless cleaning bots, but their cleaning lasers had been swapped for military-grade plasma cutters. They didn't scan. They didn't pause. They opened fire on the chair where Cal had been sitting a split second ago. The metal seat dissolved into slag. Vera rolled, pulling Cal with her behind the heavy interrogation table. A laser beam sliced through the air where her head had been, singing the tips of her hair. They are shooting at us, Cal yelled, his voice cracking. I thought you were the police. Someone hijacked the maintenance grid, Vera shouted back, pulling her pulse rifle. This is an assassination. She popped up, firing 2 precise shots. The blue energy bolt struck the first drone, shattering its delicate anti-grav drive. It spun wildly and crashed into the wall. The other 2 drones separated, flanking them. Vera realized with a chilling clarity. The security grid hadn't been triggered. The alarms weren't sounding. This wasn't an intrusion from outside. This was an inside job. Kalen, or someone above him, was scrubbing the timeline. They weren't waiting for the transfer. They wanted Cal dead now. If they were willing to kill a senior operative to silence a human scavenger, then the accusation was true. The realization hit Vera harder than a physical blow. Her world, her orders, her purpose, it all fractured. She looked at Cal. He was huddled under the table, eyes squeezed shut, clutching the data core to his chest. Vera made a choice. It wasn't a choice born of kindness. It was born of a desperate need to know the truth. She grabbed Cal by the collar of his suit. We are leaving, she growled. She fired at the door control panel, shorting the lock. Then she turned and fired a suppression burst at the remaining drones, forcing them to retreat to the ceiling. Run! She hauled Cal to his feet and shoved him toward the open door. They sprinted into the hallway. The corridor was empty, but she could hear the heavy rhythmic thud of armored boots approaching from the elevator banks. The extraction team. Not this way, Vera hissed. She dragged Cal toward the service chute. It was a gravity drop used for laundry and waste. She kicked the hatch open. Jump. Are you crazy? Cal looked down the dark shaft. That is a 300-foot drop. I can control the gravity mesh, Vera said. Jump, or stay here and get melted. Cal looked at her, then at the drones buzzing into the hallway behind them. He jumped. Vera followed. keying a command into her wrist comp to slow their descent. They fell through the dark, the air rushing past them until the gravity mesh caught them with a sickening lurch at the bottom level. They tumbled out onto a heap of discarded packing foam in the sub-basement. Cal groaned, rolling onto his back. "Remind me to leave a terrible review for this establishment." Vera ignored him. She grabbed him and pulled him into the shadow of a conduit pipe. She was breathing hard, her heart hammering against her ribs. She was a traitor now. In the span of 5 minutes, she had gone from hunter to hunted. She pinned Cal against the wall, her forearm pressing against his throat. "You better be telling the truth," she whispered, her face inches from his. "Because I just threw my life away for you." Cal didn't struggle. He looked up at her, his breathing ragged. The radiation fever made his eyes bright and glassy. "I told you," he rasped. "Your world is lying to you." Vera stared at him. She intended to shove him away, to reassert her dominance, but her body betrayed her. Her biosensors, the internal monitors that regulated her adrenaline and hormones, suddenly spiked. It was a sharp, hot jolt that started in her chest and flooded her limbs. Her pupils dilated, her breath hitched. It was a proximity response, a biological recognition. She smelled the iron of his blood, the salt of his sweat, and beneath the grime, a scent that was inexplicably, terrifyingly compelling. It triggered a dormant instinct deep in her Aurelian brain, a primitive imperative that screamed protect, claim, keep. She froze. The sensation was alien to her. Aurelians did not feel this. Mating was a bureaucratic process, arranged by genetic compatibility scores and signed contracts. It was cold. It was clinical. This was heat. She jerked back as if he had burned her. "What did you do to me?" she demanded, her voice shaking. "Is that a weapon? A pheromone bomb?" Cal looked confused. He rubbed his throat where she had pinned him. "I didn't do anything. I am just standing here bleeding." Vera checked her internal diagnostics. System normal. No toxins detected. But the feeling lingered, a magnetic pull that made her want to stand closer to him, to put herself between him and the door. She shook her head, forcing the sensation down into a locked box in her mind. "Move," she ordered, her voice harsh. "We need to get off the grid." They exited the service tunnels and emerged into the chaos of the festival district. It was the Night of Lanterns, a celebration of the Dominion's founding. The streets were packed with Aurelians wearing shimmering, full-face masks made of holographic light. The air was filled with music, a complex, multi-tonal weaving of chimes and synth strings. "This is good," Vera said, pulling the hood of her cloak up. "The crowd will mask our thermal signatures. Keep your head down. Do not speak to anyone." They wove through the throngs of tall, elegant figures. Cal looked like a beggar in a sea of royalty. He stumbled, bumping into a tall Aurelian dignitary wearing a mask of shifting gold feathers. The dignitary turned, offended. "Watch your step. Lower caste." Cal's translator unit, damaged in the fall, crackled. He tried to apologize. "Sorry, my fault. Just passing through." The translator let out a shrill screech and blared a synthesized voice in High Aurelian. "I offer my supreme reproductive compatibility to your lineage. Let us merge bloodlines immediately." The dignitary froze. The crowd around them fell silent. In Aurelian culture, such a public declaration was not just rude, it was a devastating breach of social protocol, akin to screaming a profanity in a temple. The dignitary gasped, You deviant." Cal looked at Vera. "What did I say?" "I said sorry." Vera grabbed his arm. "Run, now!" She ignited a smoke pellet from her belt and slammed it into the ground. A cloud of thick violet fog erupted, blinding the crowd. Amid the coughing and the shouting, Vera and Cal vanished into a narrow alleyway. They didn't stop running until they reached the lower sectors, where the living glass turned to rusted steel and the air tasted of recycled smog. They ducked into a doorway marked with a flickering green cross, a black market clinic. The interior was cramped and cluttered with jars of unidentifiable organs floating in gel. A four-armed medic, a species Vera recognized as a Kyrian, looked up from a microscope. He had compound eyes that rotated independently. "We are closed," the medic buzzed. Vera stepped into the light, lowering her hood. "You are open for me." Tick. The medic's mandibles clicked in recognition. Operative Vera, the butcher of Sector 4. "You are a long way from the ivory tower." "I need treatment for him," Vera said, gesturing to Cal. "Radiation sickness? Acute?" Tick looked at Cal, then back at Vera. "A human? You bring a human to my shop? The council pays 10,000 credits for a head like that." Vera slammed her hand onto the counter. Under her palm was a council seal, a physical token of authority made of pure platinum, worth more than the entire clinic. "And I am paying 50,000, she said. Silence included. Tick snatched the coin with one of his lower hands. "Deal." Put him on the slab. As Tick worked, injecting Cal with anti-rad cocktails and knitting the worst of his burns with a biolaser, the medic chattered. "You are the second one this week, you know." "Second what?" Vera asked, watching the door. "Second council lapdog asking about human biology." Tick said, "Rumors are flying. Vera, the correction division has been buying up data. Weird stuff. Not toxin reports. Compatibility reports." "Compatibility?" Vera asked, her stomach tightening. "Yeah. Cross-species graft viability. Specifically for Aurelian females with the R7 genetic marker. The bonding trait." Vera felt the blood drain from her face. She had the R7 marker. It was a rare genetic anomaly, usually dismissed as a vestigial evolutionary quirk. "They are saying," Tick continued, adjusting a dial on the biolaser, "that the council is tracking them, monitoring their biorhythms, looking for triggers." Vera accessed her own internal file via her ocular implant. She bypassed the standard security, digging into the sublayer of her medical history. There it was, a ghost protocol. Someone had been logging her heart rate, her hormone levels, and her proximity to biological subjects for 3 years. She wasn't just an officer. She was a test subject. "Done," Tick announced. "He will live, probably. Don't let him near any more unshielded engines." Vera grabbed Cal, pulling him off the table before he was fully steady. "We are leaving," she said. She dragged him out the back exit, into a service corridor that ran behind the clinic. The walls were dripping with condensation. Distant alarms echoed from the upper city, a mournful wail that signaled a citywide manhunt. They stopped in the shadows. Cal leaned against the wet wall, breathing easier now that the anti-rads were working. He looked at her. She was trembling, not from fear, but from a rage so cold it burned. "Why?" Cal asked softly. Vera looked at him. "Why what?" "Why haven't you turned me in?" Cal asked. "You could have dropped me at that clinic and walked away. You could have shot me in the interrogation room and claimed self-defense. Why are you dragging a dying human through the mud?" Vera stepped closer. The pull was there again, that magnetic, terrifying biological demand. She fought it, but she didn't retreat. She gripped the collar of his battered suit, pulling him down until their faces were inches apart. She could feel the warmth of his breath, smell the dust and life on him. "Because if you are lying," Vera whispered, her voice a low snarl, "I will end you myself. I will make you wish the radiation had taken you." She paused, her violet eyes searching his copper ones. "But if you are telling the truth," she continued, her voice breaking just enough to let the steel shine through, "then you're going to help me burn the people who wrote our laws." Cal didn't flinch. He held her gaze, and for the first time, he didn't joke. "Deal," he said. Vera released him, turned, and began to walk into the dark. "Keep up, human," she said. "We have a war to start." The old Earth Embassy was a tomb of history, sealed tight against the sterile perfection of Kypris' spire. It occupied a forgotten wing of the lower orbital ring, a relic from a time before the purity laws, when the Dominion had pretended to welcome humanity with open arms rather than closed fists. Vera cut the seal on the airlock with a focused laser burst. The heavy Durasteel doors groaned, parting to reveal a corridor choked with silence and stale, recycled air. Inside, dust motes danced in the beam of her shoulder light. The walls were lined with cracked display screens and faded banners of the United Earth Coalition, a blue globe surrounded by olive branches, now gray with age. It smelled of paper and dead electronics, a stark contrast to the ozone scent of the Dominion proper. "Get inside," Vera ordered, her voice echoing too loudly in the dead space. Cal Rook stumbled over the threshold, clutching his ribs. The anti-rad meds were working, but he still looked like he had gone 10 rounds with a gravity press. He scanned the room, his eyes lingering on a shattered display case containing a baseball glove and a fountain pen. "Home, sweet home," Cal muttered. "It looks like a museum dedicated to boredom." "It is a sanctuary for diplomat personnel," Vera corrected, holstering her weapon but keeping her hand near the grip. "It was abandoned 50 years ago. The cleaning drones do not even service this sector anymore. We are invisible here. For now," Cal added. He limped toward a heavy mahogany desk that looked absurdly organic against the metal floor. He swept a pile of rotted papers aside and set the data core down. Vera watched him. She stood by the door, her spine rigid, her sensors sweeping the hallway for any unauthorized movement. She was a statue of discipline, but inside, her mind was a chaotic storm. She had assaulted a superior officer. She had kidnapped a prisoner. She had effectively defected from the only life she had ever known. And she still felt that phantom heat under her skin whenever she looked at the human. "Can you open it?" she asked. Cal was already splicing wires from the core into a portable decoder he had fished from his suit pocket. "The encryption is council grade," he said, his fingers moving with surprising delicacy for someone so battered. "But the architecture is based on old logic. Your people never update the foundation code. You assume perfection doesn't need patching." "Arrogance is a flaw," Vera said automatically. Cal glanced up, a smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Exactly. That is why I am going to crack this in about 3 minutes." Vera paced the room. She felt exposed without her connection to the central tactical grid. She was blind, deaf, and reliant on a scavenger who made jokes about execution. "You stand like you swallowed a kinetic rod," Cal observed without looking up from the drive. "I am maintaining tactical readiness," Vera snapped. "You are stressing me out," Cal shot back. "You are vibrating. Just sit down. The chair probably won't bite. Though, given this place, it might have termites. Do termites survive in space? I do not sit on duty. You are not on duty. Officer, you are a fugitive. There is a difference." Vera glared at him, but the bite was gone. She watched his hands. They were scarred, rough, and deeply biological. There was a fascination in watching him work, a chaotic efficiency that was the antithesis of Aurelian's smooth tech. A chime sounded from the decoder. "Got it," Cal said. Vera moved instantly, standing behind his shoulder. A holographic projection flickered to life above the desk. It was grainy, a stolen recording from a surveillance camera inside a sterile laboratory. On the screen, a council scientist, a tall, spindly Aurelian with silver robes, was speaking to a shadowy figure. Subject 4 Alpha shows remarkable graft viability, the scientist said. His voice was cold, detached. The human adrenal system is compatible with the Aurelian combat stimulus response. However, the rejection rate remains high without a catalyst. The catalyst? The shadowy figure asked. The mate bond, the scientist replied. We have isolated the pheromonal triggers in females with the R7 genetic marker. If we can artificially induce the bond with a human subject, the biological graft becomes permanent. The subject ceases to be human and becomes an enhancement. Vera felt the blood drain from her face. She gripped the edge of the desk so hard the wood groaned. R7 genetic marker. That was her. That was the file she had found in her medical history. They aren't just farming us, Cal whispered, the horror plain in his voice. They are using us as spare parts, and they are using women like you as the glue to hold it all together. Vera stared at the image. The scientist on screen gestured to a tank in the background. Inside, floating in stasis gel, was a human torso fused with Aurelian cybernetics. Turn it off, Vera commanded, her voice barely a whisper. Cal killed the feed. The room plunged back into dusty silence. Vera turned away, walking to the far wall where a tattered flag hung limp. She felt sick. She felt violated. The heat she had felt earlier, the pull toward Cal, wasn't just a biological accident. It was a weaponized trait. Her government had bred her, tracked her, and waited for her to stumble across a human so they could see if she would break. I am a lab rat, she said, her voice trembling with suppressed rage. Cal stood up. He didn't move toward her, sensing the volatility radiating off her like heat waves. You are a soldier who just found out the war is a lie, he said softly. That doesn't make you a rat. It makes you dangerous. Vera turned back to him. Her violet eyes were burning. We need proof. That video is not enough. They will claim it is a deep fake simulation created by terrorists. We need a witness. We need someone who can verify the lab location. Cal rubbed his chin. I might know a guy, but you are not going to like where he lives. The Undercity was the bowel of Kepri Spire. It was where the gravity stabilizers were old and glitchy, where the air scrubbers wheezed, and where the light of the upper city didn't reach. Vera had changed her appearance. She wore a heavy scavenger's cloak over her armor, her distinctive face hidden in the shadows of a cowl. Cal walked beside her, blending in perfectly with the grime and the noise. The streets here were narrow canyons of rusted metal and neon cabling. Strange smells wafted from open-air food stalls, sizzling synthetic meats, acrid spices, and the copper tang of unfiltered coolant. Gravity here was a suggestion rather than a law. Every few hundred feet, Vera felt her weight drop by half, making her steps bouncy and awkward, while Cal navigated the shifts with the ease of a local. Keep your head down, Cal muttered. This isn't the promenade. People here don't bow to the blue armor. They salvage it for scrap. We are looking for a journalist? Vera asked, keeping her voice low. Ex-journalist, Cal corrected. He used to write for the Council Gazette until he asked too many questions about the budget for the correction division. Now he sells information and counterfeit identity skins. They turned a corner into a market crowded with alien species that Vera had only seen in threat assessment manuals. A four-armed vendor was shouting about fresh water filters. A group of cybernetic miners gambled with glowing dice in an alley. Cal stopped near a hovering vending machine that was dispensing cans of pressurized algae sludge. He tapped his wrist comm. Wake up, trash can, he whispered. I need you. Vera frowned. Who are you talking to? A flicker of light materialized above Cal's shoulder. It coalesced into a small, spherical drone with a cracked optical lens and a rusty chassis. It hovered erratically, buzzing like an angry insect. Greetings, meatbag, the drone synthesized. Its voice was a monotone drawl that sounded perpetually unimpressed. I see you are not dead yet. I assume this is a temporary state? Vera stared at the machine. It is an unlicensed AI. That is a Class 3 felony. And you are a Class 1 oppressor. The drone swiveled its lens toward her. My sensors detect high levels of self-righteousness and a stick up your... M0X, Cal snapped. Be nice. This is Vera. She is helping us. Helping us what? Die faster? M0X bobbed in the air. I was enjoying my hibernation. I was dreaming of electric sheep. They were on fire. It was beautiful. M0X. Scan the local net, Cal ordered, ignoring the drone's attitude. We need to find a contact named Silas Vane. Last known location was the Neon District. Scanning. M0X droned. Also, your heart rate is elevated. Cal, is it the radiation or the scary lady in the cape? Just find him, Cal hissed. Vera found herself strangely amused. The drone was insolent, illegal, and chaotic. Everything she was trained to despise. Yet, its honesty was refreshing compared to the polite lies of the council. He is at the kinetic bridge. M0X reported on drinking away his sorrows at an establishment called the Rusty Piston. I recommend we hurry. My probability algorithm suggests he will pass out in 20 minutes. They moved deeper into the district, the crowds thickening. Vera felt eyes on her, calculating. Hungry eyes. She kept her hand near her hidden pulse pistol. The Rusty Piston was a hole in the wall, quite literally. It was carved into the side of a ventilation shaft, the noise of the massive fans drowning out half the conversation. Silas Vane sat in a shadowed booth at the back. He was an older Aurelian, his scales dull and gray, his eyes watery. He nursed a glass of glowing blue liquid. Cal slid into the booth opposite him. Vera stood guard at the edge of the table, her back to the room. Silas? Cal asked. The old journalist looked up. He squinted. You look like trouble. Human. I don't buy trouble, I only sell it. We have information, Cal said, placing the data core on the table. Project Cradle. Silas flinched. The glass shook in his hand, spilling blue liquid onto the table. Don't say that name, he hissed, looking around wildly. Are you trying to get us erased? It is real, isn't it? Vera asked, her voice cutting through the noise of the bar. Silas looked up at her, realizing for the first time who she was despite the cloak. He went pale. An intelligence officer, he whispered. If you are involved, then it is already too late. I am not here to arrest you, Vera said. I need to verify a lab location. Sector 7, sub-level 9. Silas let out a shaky breath. Sub-level 9. Yes. That was where the shipments went. I tracked the logistics manifests. Biological waste coming out. Classified preservation tanks going in. I tried to publish it. They killed my editor. They took my credentials. They left me here to rot. He reached out, his trembling finger hovering over the data core. If you have footage, if you have proof. Maybe it wasn't all for nothing. Maybe we can. The air between them shimmered. There was no sound of a gunshot, no flash of a laser, just a sudden, violent vibration that shattered the glass in Silas's hand. Silas's eyes went wide. He opened his mouth to speak, but only blood poured out. His internal organs had been liquefied by a focused sonic pulse. He slumped forward onto the table, dead before his head hit the metal. Vera's combat instinct screamed. "Sniper!" she yelled. She kicked the table over, using it as cover, and dragged Cal down with her. M0X shrieked. "Sonic weapon detected. Triangulating source. It is a clean sweep drone. Highly illegal. Very effective. We are going to die. Move!" Vera commanded. She threw a flashbang grenade over the table, not to blind the sniper, but to overload the sonic sensors. A high-pitched whine filled the bar, followed by the shattering of every bottle on the shelves. In the confusion, Vera and Cal bolted for the rear exit. They burst out onto the kinetic bridge, a massive, spanning structure made of hard light energy that connected the undercity to the transit hubs. The wind here was fierce, whipping Vera's cloak around her legs. Above them, the sky lit up with red and blue strobes. Enforcement ships. Attention, citizens. A magnified voice boomed from the clouds. "Fugitive detected. Sector 4 locked down." "They are tracking us," Cal shouted over the wind. Vera looked at the blockade forming at the end of the bridge. Armored drones were scanning faces. "I can bluff them," she said. "I am still a senior operative. My clearance might still be valid in the local subnet." She marched forward, pulling her hood down to reveal her face. She held up her wrist, projecting her holographic badge. "Make way," she ordered the approaching drones. "I am escorting a prisoner to correction. Stand down." The drones hesitated. The scanners swept her badge. For a second, the light turned green. Then, the massive holographic billboards lining the bridge flickered. The advertisements for nutrient paste and holidays vanished. They were replaced by Vera's face. "Wanted for treason." The text scrolled in bold red letters. "Senior Operative Vera. Seduced by human contamination. Unstable. Kill on sight." The audio boomed across the bridge. "Do not approach. She has been compromised by the enemy. She is no longer Aurelian." Vera stood frozen. The public accusation hit her harder than any physical blow. Seduced. Contaminated. They weren't just hunting her. They were erasing her dignity. They were using her biology to paint her as a victim of her own lust, stripping away her years of service and discipline. "Oh, that is just rude," Cal muttered, grabbing her arm. "Run!" The drones turned red. They opened fire. Vera snapped out of her shock. She activated her kinetic shield, a shimmering bubble of energy that deflected the first volley of plasma bolts. "Jump!" she yelled. They didn't reach the end of the bridge. They vaulted over the side, plummeting toward the passing traffic of a heavy freight lane. Vera fired a grappling line from her wrist, snagging a passing garbage scow. The jolt nearly dislocated her shoulder, but she held on, swinging Cal onto the rusted hull of the barge. They scrambled inside an open service capsule, a cramped metal box barely big enough for one person, let alone two. Vera slammed the hatch shut just as the enforcement ships roared overhead, their searchlights slicing through the smog. The capsule was dark, smelling of oil and old metal. It was tiny. Vera and Cal were pressed together, chest to chest, legs tangled. Vera was hyperventilating. The adrenaline, the betrayal, the public shaming. It was too much. She was shaking. Cal, sensing her panic, didn't make a joke. He didn't move away. He shifted his weight, creating a fraction of an inch of space to let her breathe. But his hands came up to steady her shoulders. "Breathe," he whispered. "Just breathe." They didn't see us. Vera looked up at him in the dark. The slats of the capsule let in rhythmic flashes of light from the passing city. Red, blue, red, blue. Each flash illuminated his face. The grime, the concern, the maddeningly human softness of his features. Her heart was hammering against her ribs, and she knew he could feel it pressed against his own chest. "They called me. Contaminated," she whispered. They are scared of you, Cal said firmly. Propaganda is what cowards use when they don't have the truth. You are not contaminated, Vera. You are the only clean thing in this whole damn city. His breath ghosted across her cheek. The proximity was overwhelming. The heat returned, sharper this time. Her biology was reacting to the danger and the closeness. Vera felt a prickling sensation under her skin. She looked down at her hands, faint. Bioluminescent patterns were blooming along her forearms, swirling geometric shapes of soft violet light. She gasped, trying to pull her arms away, to hide them. No, she hissed, not now. Stop it. It was the mate bond sign. The physical manifestation of compatibility that she had been taught was a myth, a fairy tale from the pre-tech era. It was real, and it was marking her as his. Cal saw the glow. He didn't recoil. He looked at the patterns with a kind of reverent confusion. What is that? He asked softly. Evidence, Vera said bitterly, closing her eyes. Proof that I am broken, that I am exactly what they say I am. Hey. Cal released one of her shoulders to gently touch her wrist, his thumb tracing the glowing line. You are not broken. You are reacting. It is beautiful. Vera opened her eyes. His touch was electric. It shouldn't be allowed. It was illegal. It was treasonous. And it was the only thing anchoring her to reality. Her gaze dropped to his mouth. She wanted to bridge the gap. The urge to press her lips to his, to complete the biological circuit, was a physical ache. Cal's eyes darkened. He leaned in, just an inch. The air between them crackled with unspent energy. Then, M0X popped out of Cal's pocket, hovering between their faces. If you two are done exchanging fluids via osmosis, I have an update. The drone beeped loudly. Vera jerked back, hitting her head on the capsule wall. The moment shattered. What is it? M0X? Cal asked, his voice strained. I have intercepted a covert transmission on a secure frequency, M0X said. Addressed to Operative Vera. It is encrypted with a personal cipher. Vera took a breath, forcing her glowing skin to dim, forcing the soldier back into control. Play it. A holographic text appeared in the air. Vera, I know you are alive. The Council is lying. Meet me at the old archives. I can clear your name. High Inquisitor Kalen. Vera stared at the message. Kalen, her mentor, the man who had trained her, who had ordered the hit on Cal. It is a trap, Cal said immediately. He ordered the drones to kill us. I know, Vera said. But the archives, that is where the original treaties are kept. If there is proof of the purity law's true origin, it is there. He wants to kill you, Cal insisted. He wants to silence me, Vera corrected. Which means the truth is in that building. We are going... Why? Cal asked, frustration leaking into his voice. Why risk it? We could steal a ship. We could run to the rim. I am not running, Vera snapped. She looked at him, her eyes fierce. I am not leaving my home to be eaten by these lies. I am going to fix it. Cal looked at her for a long moment. Then he sighed, a sound of defeat and admiration mixed together. Okay, we go to the archives. But if we die, I am going to be very annoying in the afterlife. Why are you doing this? Vera asked, her voice softer. You are a salvager. You could have left me at the bridge. You could leave now. Cal looked away, staring through the slats at the passing city. I told you I was looking for treasure. That was a lie. He turned back to her. My sister disappeared 2 years ago, from a border colony. She was 18. I have been tracking the ghost ships ever since. I didn't come to the Dominion to get rich. I came to find her. or to find the people who took her. Vera felt a pang of sympathy that was entirely human. He wasn't a thief. He was a brother. We will find her, Vera promised, after we burn them down. The council archive was a fortress of silence. It was a massive windowless spire located in the government district. Getting in was impossible. Unless you had a drone with zero respect for digital boundaries. We are at the biometric lock, Vera whispered. They were crouched behind a decorative hedge in the archive gardens. The door ahead was a solid slab of obsidian, guarded by a sentient AI system. Leave this to the master. M0X beeped. The drone floated up to the door panel. The scanner beam hit it. Identification required. The door's AI announced in a soothing female voice. Identification is for squares. M0X replied, I am the ghost of algorithms past. I am the error in your code. Listen to my song. M0X began to broadcast a stream of binary data that, when translated, was a stream of horrific, nonsensical poetry about the mating habits of silicon-based life forms. Oh, the voltage of your motherboard is like a damp sponge. M0X synthesized at maximum volume. Error, input illogical. Syntax corrupted. The door AI stuttered. Processing. Overload. Stopping. Please stop. The obsidian slab shuddered and hissed open, the AI crashing into a reboot loop to escape the bad poetry. You are ridiculous, Vera muttered, but she slipped through the opening. Inside. The archive was a cavern of living shelves, rows of crystalline memory shards that stretched up into the darkness, glowing with the stored history of the Dominion. They ran through the aisles, Vera leading the way to the founding era section. Here, she said, stopping before a golden pedestal, the original Purity Accord. She placed her hand on the reader. Even as a traitor, her biometric signature was woven into the history of the spire. The crystal hummed and projected a document into the air. Vera scanned the text. Her eyes widened. This is not a victory declaration, she whispered. Cal looked at the floating text. What does it say? The Purity Accord wasn't signed after we defeated the humans, Vera said, her voice trembling. It was signed with them. She swiped the text to the side, revealing the signatures at the bottom. The first seal was the High Council. The second seal was the United Earth Coalition. It was a treaty, Vera said, a cooperation pact. We agreed to share technology. We agreed to open borders. But then, she scrolled to the amendments, dated 1 year later. The council rewrote it, she said. They classified the treaty. They invented the war. They claimed humans were dangerous to justify sealing the borders. Not to keep you out, but to keep their own people from leaving, to keep control. She looked at Cal. Everything I was taught, everything I fought for, it is all a lie. Slow clapping echoed from the darkness. Vera spun around, raising her weapon. From the shadows of the aisles, High Inquisitor Kalen stepped out. He was flanked by a squad of elite guards, their weapons raised. Kalen smiled, a cold, thin expression that didn't reach his eyes. History is written by the winners, my dear Vera, Kalen said smoothly. And unfortunately, you have just written your final chapter. Vera aimed at him. You lied to everyone, to the whole Dominion. I protected them, Kalen corrected. Order requires a common enemy. We gave them one. And in exchange, we secured the future of our species. A future you are now threatening. He snapped his fingers. The vents above them hissed. Green gas, paralytic neurotoxin began to flood the chamber. Seal the room, Kalen ordered. Let them sleep. We will extract the genetic material later. The blast doors slammed shut. Vera fired, but the bolt dissipated against a kinetic shield Kalen had activated. The gas swirled around them, thick and choking. "Cal!" Vera yelled, reaching for him. Cal grabbed her hand, pulling her close as the world began to spin. "Don't let go." He coughed. Vera looked at Kalen through the haze. He was watching them like specimens in a jar. "I will kill you," she whispered, her vision blurring. Then the darkness took her. The paralysis gas had faded, leaving behind a headache that throbbed in time with the pulsing lights of the council archive. But Vera did not let the pain show on her face. She was on her knees, her arms wrenched behind her back by two members of the Praetorian Guard. The cold metal floor bit into her shins. Above her, High Inquisitor Kalen adjusted the cuffs of his pristine white robe. He looked less like a soldier and more like a surgeon preparing to excise a tumor. "You look confused, Vera," Kalen said softly. His voice echoed in the cavernous chamber of the archive, bouncing off the crystalline shelves that held the stolen history of their people. "You still think this is about hatred? You think we built the purity wall because we despise the humans?" Cal was a few feet away, being dragged toward a sleek, coffin-shaped transport pod by three other guards. He was struggling, kicking out with his heavy boots, but the guards were reinforced with exoskeletons. "Let him go," Vera said, her voice a low growl. "He is just a salvager. He knows nothing. He knows everything," Kalen corrected, "because he carries the data you helped him unlock. And now, so do you." Kalen walked in a slow circle around her. "We do not hate the humans. Vera, one does not hate a hammer, or a wrench, or a battery. One uses them. The Dominion is dying. Our genetic code is stagnant. We are perfect. Yes, but perfection is a dead end. We stopped evolving 1,000 years ago. To survive, we need friction. We need chaos. We need the biological adaptability that humans waste on their short, messy lives." He gestured to the transport pod where Cal was now being forced inside. "Project Cradle is not a conspiracy," Kalen said. "It is a preservation effort. We harvest the best traits, immune resilience, adrenaline production, muscle density, and we graft them into our own elite lines. We ensure the Aurelian race remains dominant forever. The humans are merely the soil in which we grow our future." Cal slammed his head back into the nose of the guard holding him, cracking the guard's helmet. "We are not your spare parts, you ghosts!" Cal shouted. Kalen sighed, looking at Cal with mild disappointment. "Such spirit," Kalen noted. "It will make a fine addition to the splice." Vera felt a cold rage crystallize in her chest. It was clarity, absolute and terrifying. She had served a lie. She had killed for a lie. She didn't scream. She moved. Vera snapped her head back, smashing her skull into the faceplate of the guard behind her. The kinetic impact shattered the glass. As the guard reeled back, blinded, Vera swept her legs out, catching the second guard at the ankles. She was a blur of violence. She spun, using the momentum to break the grip on her arms, and grabbed the stun baton from the falling guard's belt. With a fluid, elegant strike, she drove the electrified tip into the neck seal of the first guard's armor. He convulsed and dropped. She stood up, the baton humming in her hand, her violet eyes burning with lethal intent. "Stand down," she ordered Kalen. Kalen didn't flinch. He just smiled, a sad, paternal expression. "Oh, Vera, you really thought you were recruited for your combat scores, didn't you?" He tapped a control on his wrist, a shock collar, concealed beneath the rim of Vera's armor. Activated. It wasn't a stun. It was a neural override. Every muscle in Vera's body locked instantly. The baton clattered to the floor. She collapsed, not from weakness, but because her nervous system had been severed from her command. She hit the ground hard, gasping for air that her lungs refused to draw. Kaelin stepped over her, looking down. "You were never the guard dog. Vera," he whispered, "you were the broodmare." The words hit her harder than the floor. "We tracked you from birth," Kaelin continued. "Your genetic profile contains the R7 marker, high mate bond potential. It is rare. It is precious. You are the catalyst. Vera, without females like you, the human grafts reject the host. We didn't train you to fight for the Dominion. We preserved you so you could breed the next generation of leaders. You are the mother of the new race." Vera stared up at him, unable to speak, unable to blink. The humiliation was total. Her pride, her discipline, her rank. It was all a cage they had built to keep her safe until harvest day. Kaelin turned to the guards holding Cal. "Load him. Take her to the secure wing. We begin the extraction tonight." Cal was halfway into the pod. He looked at Vera, seeing the devastation in her eyes. He stopped struggling. "Hey!" Cal yelled, his voice cutting through the tension. "Hey! Wizard of Oz!" Kaelin paused, looking back with annoyance. "You talk too much," Cal said. "Seriously, it is a villain cliché. You monologue, the hero gets a breather, and you lose. Haven't you ever read a book?" Kaelin scoffed. "There are no heroes here. Human. Only biology." "Yeah, about that," Cal grinned, a reckless, bloodied expression. "Biology is messy. And technology? Technology is hackable." Cal twisted his wrist. He wasn't trying to break the cuffs. He was twisting the magnetic lock on the data core still chained to his arm. "M0X, do it." From the ventilation shaft high above, a tiny metallic sphere dropped like a stone. M0X, the illegal drone, didn't fire a weapon. It dove straight into the open maintenance port of the archive's central console. "Uploading chaos," the drone shrieked. "Enjoy my mixtape." Cal triggered the failsafe on his data core. The archive's massive display grid, thousands of screens lining the walls, suddenly flickered. The image of the council seal vanished. In its place, the stolen footage from the lab began to play. The scientists talking about harvesting humans, the tanks, the bodies. It wasn't just playing in the room, it was broadcasting to the external grid. "What have you done?" Kaelin roared, tapping frantically on his wrist comp. "Cut the feed!" The guards were distracted, looking up at the damning footage towering over them. "Now! Vera!" Cal shouted. The distraction caused a surge in the local power grid as M0X cannibalized the system. The shock collar on Vera's neck sparked and shorted out. The paralysis vanished. Vera surged upward like a missile. She didn't go for a weapon. She went for Kaelin. She slammed into him, driving him into the nearest crystal shelf. Shards of history rained down around them. Kaelin was strong, enhanced by his own secret therapies. But Vera was fueled by a violation so deep it felt like her soul was burning. She struck him in the throat, collapsing his windpipe, then spun and kicked the guard, reaching for Cal. Cal kicked the last guard into the open transport pod and slammed the lid. "M0X, lock it!" Cal yelled. "Locking!" M0X beeped from the console. "Also, I have ordered 20 pizzas to this location. The delivery drones will create a traffic jam in 3 minutes. Run!" Vera grabbed Cal's hand. They didn't run toward the exit. The main doors were sealing as the security protocols slammed into place. "Down!" Vera commanded. She dragged Cal toward a service hatch that led to the foundation levels. She ripped the grate off its hinges with her bare hands, her strength amplified by the adrenaline flooding her system, and they jumped into the darkness. They slid down a debris chute, tumbling for what felt like an eternity, before crashing onto a pile of dust and silence. They were in the sublevels. The air here was different. It didn't smell of recycled ozone. It smelled of stone, time, and something electric. The architecture had changed. Gone were the sleek white curves of the Dominion. The walls here were rough-hewn black stone, carved with geometric patterns that seemed to shift when looked at directly. "Where are we?" Cal whispered, standing up and brushing dust from his suit. "The forgotten levels," Vera said. Her voice was shaking. She leaned against the wall, trying to steady her breathing. These were built before the spire, before the council. She looked at her hands. They were trembling. "I am a breeder," she whispered. "That is all I am." Cal stepped closer. He didn't touch her, sensing the volatility radiating off her. "You are the woman who just took down a high inquisitor with her bare hands," Cal said firmly. "That is who you are." They walked deeper into the dark, guided only by the bioluminescent strip on Vera's armor. They entered a massive circular chamber. In the center, suspended in a gravity field that defied the laws of physics, was an object. It was a monolith of iridescent metal, twisting in on itself like a Mobius strip made of liquid light. It pulsed with a low, rhythmic thrum that vibrated in their teeth. "What is that?" Cal asked. Vera stared at it. "It is a relic from the precursor era. The council claims they were all destroyed because they were dangerous. The relic wasn't just a rock, it was reactive." As Vera stepped closer, the light from the monolith shifted from a cool blue to a turbulent, stormy violet. It was mirroring her internal state. Cal stepped up beside her. The light swirled, mixing with a warm, steady amber gold. The colors blended in the air, creating a bridge of light between them. The gravity in the room shifted. Vera felt her feet lift slightly off the floor. The air grew heavy, charged with static. It reads intent. Vera realized it reads emotion. The pulse from the relic grew stronger. It wasn't just light anymore. It was a physical sensation, a resonance. Vera felt it in her marrow. It was pulling her toward Cal, not with a vague biological urge, but with a crushing, undeniable gravity. "The mate bond," she whispered. "It wasn't a myth. It wasn't a biological defect. It was this technology, or this magic." She looked at Cal. The amber light surrounding him was protective, solid. He was looking at her with an intensity that terrified her. "Vera," Cal said softly. His voice echoed in the strange acoustic space. "You heard him. They want you. They want you because of this." He gestured to the space between them. "If I stay," Cal said, "they will hunt you forever. They will tear this city apart to get the two of us back in a lab." He took a step back. "I can draw them off. I can take the data core and run to the lower levels. You can escape. You can vanish. You have the skills." Vera looked at him. He was offering to die for her. He was offering to be the distraction so she could survive. It was noble. It was human. And it made her furious. "No," she said. Vera closed the distance between them in 2 strides. She grabbed the front of his battered flight suit, her knuckles white. "You do not get to decide that," she snarled, her voice trembling with a mix of rage and longing. "You do not get to be the martyr. You are not just a diversion, Cal." She pulled him closer. The relic flared, the violet and gold light exploding into a blinding white brilliance that washed out the shadows of the room. "You are the only thing in this galaxy that makes me feel real," she admitted, the words tearing out of her throat. "Vera," Cal breathed. She pressed her forehead against his. The contact sent a shockwave through her. It was electric, terrifying, and perfect. Her breath hitched. "I want you," she whispered against his skin. "Not because of a protocol, not because of a law. I want you. And that is illegal. That is treason." Cal brought his hands up, cupping her face. His thumbs brushed the high, sharp angles of her cheekbones. He held her like she was something holy, something he had never expected to touch. "Then let's commit treason," he said. Vera pulled back just enough to look at his hands. She made a decision. It was irreversible. It was the ultimate defiance of the council. She turned his left hand over, exposing his wrist. With a thought, she unlocked the biological dampeners on her own skin. The bioluminescence that had flickered before now surged. She pressed her index and middle fingers to the inside of his wrist. She burned her energy into him. It wasn't painful, but it was intense. A sigil, a complex swirling mark of violet light, etched itself into his skin. It glowed, fading slowly but leaving a permanent, faint shimmer beneath the surface. Cal stared at his wrist. "What did you just do?" he asked. "I claimed you," Vera said, her voice steady. "In the old ways. Now, your biology is linked to mine. If you die, I will know. If you are in pain, I will feel it." She looked up at him, her eyes fierce. "So do not die, Cal Rook. That is an order." Cal laughed, a breathless, incredulous sound. He traced the mark on his wrist. "Yes, ma'am." Suddenly, M0X dropped from the shadows, buzzing frantically. "While this is incredibly touching and makes me want to vomit up my logic centers," the drone interrupted, "we have company. Soldiers. Lots of them. Also, this rock is doing something weird to the local gravity." Vera looked at the relic. The light was pulsing faster now. "It is a gravity fold," she realized. "The relic is a transport node." She grabbed Cal's hand. "M0X, can you interface with it? I can interface with the toaster if I have to." M0X bragged, "Give me a second." The drone flew into the center of the light. Destination locked. It is somewhere else, somewhere messy. "Let's go." Vera and Cal jumped into the light. The world twisted. It felt like being squeezed through a straw. Colors inverted. Sound became color. They were spat out into the vacuum of space, or rather, into the cockpit of a small, dormant scout craft that had been docked on the other side of the fold. They tumbled into the pilot seats. Outside the viewport, chaos reigned. They were in the middle of a debris storm orbiting a shattered moon. Rocks the size of city blocks were colliding in slow motion. M0X plugged into the ship's console. "Systems online. Engines are at 40%. Shields are non-existent. Good luck." Cal grabbed the flight stick. "Buckle up," he yelled. The scout craft lurched forward. Vera slammed into the co-pilot seat, her hands flying over the weapons console. "We have 3 interceptors on our tail," she shouted. Cal banked the ship hard to the left, narrowly missing a jagged piece of a destroyed satellite. "I see them! I see them!" He was flying with one hand, his other hand reaching across the console to steady Vera as the G-forces slammed them sideways. "You are a terrible pilot," Vera yelled, though she was grinning fiercely. "I am a creative pilot," Cal corrected. "There is a difference," M0X screamed from the dashboard. "My probability calculations say we have a 0.0% chance of survival if you keep looking at her eyes instead of the asteroid." "Cal! I can do both!" Cal shouted. He spun the ship, diving into a cloud of ice crystals to break the lock of the pursuing missiles. The missiles detonated on the ice, shaking their craft violently. "We can't outrun them," Vera said, checking the tactical scope. "We don't have to," Cal said. "We just have to go where they won't follow." He punched the throttle to maximum and aimed the ship straight toward a massive, hollowed-out asteroid that was bristling with unauthorized weapon turrets and patchwork plating. That is an outlaw habitat, Vera warned. They will shoot us down. Better them than the Council, Cal said. He broadcast a chaotic identification code, a smuggler's greeting. The turrets on the asteroid tracked them. For a terrifying second, Vera thought they were dead. Then, a hangar bay door groaned open, revealing a landing strip illuminated by flickering red lights. Cal slammed the ship down on the deck, skidding sparks for 100 yards before crashing into a stack of empty cargo containers. Smoke filled the cockpit. Everyone alive? Cal coughed. Vera kicked the canopy open. Acceptable landing, she said, checking her armor. I have lost 3% of my paint, M0X complained. This is a tragedy. They climbed out of the wreck. They were instantly surrounded. Dozens of armed figures emerged from the shadows. They were a motley crew, exiled Aurelians with shaved horns, cybernetically enhanced Kyrians, and humans with scarred faces. A tall figure stepped forward. He was an Aurelian, old and scarred, wearing the tattered remains of a Senate robe over combat armor. He leveled a heavy plasma cannon at Vera. A council dog, the old man spat. You have a lot of nerve coming here, operative. Give me one reason why I shouldn't space you. Vera raised her hands, but she didn't look afraid. Because I am the one who just broadcast the cradle footage, she said. The old man narrowed his eyes. Lies. The council doesn't leak. Cal stepped in front of Vera, holding up his left hand. The violet sigil on his wrist glowed in the dim light of the hangar. She is telling the truth, Cal said. The old man saw the mark. His eyes went wide. He lowered the weapon slowly. A bonding mark, he whispered. On a human? He looked at Vera with a new expression. Not hatred, shock. You committed treason, the old man said. High treason. I chose a side, Vera corrected. The old man stared at them for a long moment, then spat on the deck and holstered his weapon. I am Senator Jax. Or I was, before I asked where my daughter went. He waved his hand to the gathered crowd. Stand down. They are fugitives. Jax led them through the habitat. It was a labyrinth of carved stone and stolen tech. It smelled of desperation and freedom. He took them to a command room filled with stolen council monitors. You started a fire, Jax said, pointing to a screen. The broadcast you released? It is playing on every loop in the Undercity. Riots are starting in Sector 4. Good, Vera said. But you missed the bigger picture, Jax said grimly. He tapped a console. Cradle isn't just about harvesting humans for spare parts. That is the maintenance phase. The goal is the heir. He brought up a schematic. It showed a DNA double helix that was artificially woven, gold and red, Aurelian and human. They have been trying to create a perfect leader for 50 years. Jax explained. Someone with the psychic discipline of an Aurelian and the chaotic adaptability of a human. A leader who can control the bond perfectly. Jax swiped the screen. An image appeared. It was a leaked promotional image for the upcoming unveiling ceremony. It showed a silhouette of a young woman, but the sidebar contained her genetic profile. The unveiling is in 2 days, Jax said. They are going to present her as the future, the proof that the council has achieved perfection. Vera leaned in, studying the DNA profile. She recognized the Aurelian markers. They were standard royal lines. But then she looked at the human markers. She looked at Cal. Cal was staring at the screen. His face had gone completely white. Cal? Vera asked softly. Cal reached out, his trembling finger touching the human side of the DNA profile. That isn't random, Cal whispered. That sequence, the anomaly on the 23rd chromosome, He turned to Vera, his eyes filled with a horror that eclipsed everything else. "That is my sister," he said. "That is Ilara." He looked back at the silhouette of the perfect Aurelian heir. "They didn't just kill her," Cal whispered. "They turned her into one of you." Vera looked at the screen, then at the mark on Cal's wrist. The pieces clicked into place. The bond, the experiments, the harvest. It wasn't just a political conspiracy, it was a family reunion, and it was going to be a bloodbath. "We are going back," Vera said, her voice hard as diamond. Jax looked at her. "Back? To the capital? That is suicide." "No," Vera said. She took Cal's hand, lacing her fingers through his. "It is a rescue mission." The journey to the planetary capital was not a march. It was a descent into a fever dream. Vera and Cal had abandoned the stolen scout craft in the magnetic Badlands, trading speed for stealth, to reach the capital city of Ethelgard without tripping the orbital sensors. They had to cross the Whispering Weald, a stretch of bioengineered wilderness that the Council had grown centuries ago as a perimeter defense. It was a forest of bioluminescence and surveillance. The trees were tall, pale spires of organic resin that glowed with a faint, pulsing heartbeat. The ground was covered in a carpet of violet moss that reacted to pressure. Every step they took produced a sound. Cal placed his boot on a patch of moss, and a low, melodic cello note resonated from the ground. He froze. "This is ridiculous," Cal whispered. He looked at the endless expanse of musical vegetation. "We are trying to sneak up on a military superpower, and the floor is playing a symphony. It is a sonic pressure grid," Vera explained. She moved with a dancer's grace, stepping on specific root clusters that produced only soft, harmonic thirds that blended with the wind. If you break the rhythm, the trees scream. And if the trees scream, the hunter drones wake up. "Follow my footsteps exactly." They moved in single file. The forest was beautiful and terrifying. The canopy above them was a shifting kaleidoscope of teal and magenta leaves that watched them with multifaceted eyes. M0X floated silently between them, his audio circuits dampened to zero. He projected a scrolling text holographic message above his chassis. "I hate nature. Nothing here has a USB port." They walked for hours. The tension between Vera and Cal was a physical weight, heavier than the gravity of the planet. Since the revelation in the asteroid base that Cal's sister was the genetic template for the new heir, the stakes had shifted. It was no longer just about survival. It was about reclamation. They reached the edge of the Weald where the ruins of the old Dominion began. These were the structures left behind from the era before the time stabilization fields were perfected. Here, reality stuttered. Vera stopped before a crumbling archway. The air inside the arch shimmered like heat haze. "Time sinks," Vera warned. "Don't touch the stone. In some spots, 5 seconds is 5 years." They navigated the ruins, dodging pockets of accelerated decay where metal rusted in seconds. In the center of a shattered plaza stood the Smuggler's Gate. It was an ancient piece of xenotech, a massive ring of obsidian that looked like a blind eye. "It is inactive," Cal said, checking his scanner. "It is locked," Vera corrected. "It is a truth gate. It uses psychometric readings to verify intent. It will not open for codes. It only opens for a confession, a truth you are afraid to speak." She looked at Cal. "It requires a high emotional resonant frequency." "My training." Vera hesitated. "My training taught me to suppress everything. I cannot open it. I am too cold." Cal looked at the black stone. He stepped forward. The ring hummed, a low, menacing vibration. "Speak," a voice echoed, not from the gate, but inside their skulls. Speak the weight you carry. Cal took a breath. He looked at Vera. She stood amidst the ruins, her armor scuffed, her face illuminated by the ghostly light of the time sinks, and she looked like a queen of ashes. I am terrified, Cal said. The gate hummed louder, but remained opaque, insufficient. I am terrified that I am the reason she dies, Cal said, his voice cracking. I am a salvager. I am nobody. She is everything. She is the fire and the steel. And I am just the anchor that is going to drown her. Vera stepped forward, her eyes widening. Cal continued staring at the black stone. I should leave her. I should run and draw the fire so she can live. Logic says I should walk away. The gate began to glow a deep, blood red. But I won't, Cal whispered. I am selfish. I want to be with her more than I want her to be safe. And that scares me more than the council ever could. The obsidian ring cracked with a sound like thunder. The black stone dissolved into a swirling vortex of white light. The confession, raw, ugly, and honest, had shattered the lock. Vera stared at him. The admission hung in the air between them. He had admitted that his love was a danger to her, and yet he chose it anyway. She walked up to him. She didn't say a word. She reached out and gripped his hand, her fingers interlacing with his. Her touch was the answer. I choose the danger too. Let's go, she said. They stepped through the light. Ethelgard was a monument to excess. The capital city was built on a series of floating platforms suspended over a crystal-clear ocean. White towers spiraled into the clouds, connected by ribbons of hard-light bridges. Today, the city was draped in banners of gold and silver. It was the day of unveiling. The streets were packed with millions of citizens. Aerial barges broadcast hymns of purity. The atmosphere was manic, a forced celebration of genetic perfection. Vera and Cal emerged from a maintenance distortion field in the lower districts. They had shed their combat armor. Vera now wore the flowing, high-collared robes of a diplomat from the outer rims, a disguise fabricated by Senator Jax's contacts. The fabric was midnight blue, masking the combat suit underneath. A silver veil covered the lower half of her face. Cal wore the stiff, uncomfortable formal wear of a junior attaché. His unruly hair slicked back with suppression gel. And M0X was floating on a magnetic cushion, encased in a gilded shell that made him look like a decorative ceremonial orb. I feel ridiculous. M0X transmitted directly to their earpieces. I look like a shiny festive ornament. If anyone tries to polish me, I am detonating. Be quiet, orb, Vera murmured. You are a symbol of peace. I am a symbol of violent impending combustion, M0X corrected. They moved through the crowds toward the Grand Plaza. The security was tight, but it was looking for soldiers, not dignitaries. Vera's forged credentials identifying her as Ambassador Lyra of the Third Moon passed 3 checkpoints without an alarm. The plaza was a sea of bodies. In the center, a massive dais rose hundreds of feet into the air. At the top stood the Council of 7, looking like statues of ice and gold. Behind them was a massive veiled containment unit. The air... Cal's jaw tightened when he saw the unit. Ilara was in there. Stay focused, Vera whispered, sensing a spike in heart rate through the bond. We need to get to the sublevels. The entrance to the Cradle Annex is beneath the Temple of Reflection. They navigated the VIP sector. The air smelled of expensive perfume and ozone. Overhead, a news hologram flickered to life. Alert. The announcer's voice was smooth and terrified. Intelligence reports indicate a planned terrorist attack by human sympathizers during the ceremony. Citizens are advised that purity enforcement squads have been authorized to use lethal force. Cal stopped. That is the false flag. They are going to stage an attack. Vera realized they will set off explosions, blame the humans, and use the panic to justify a massacre. It gives them the excuse to wipe out the resistance before the air is even unveiled. We have to stop the broadcast, Cal said. Vera scanned the crowd. She saw a familiar face near the VIP entrance to the temple. It was Harold. He was a mid-level clerk for the archives, a man who had once written Vera a letter of admiration after she saved a transport ship from pirates. He was clutching a data pad, looking pale and sweating. He knows, Vera said. Look at him. He knows what is coming. She steered Cal toward the clerk. Vera, this is risky, Cal warned. Trust me. Vera approached Harold. She didn't draw a weapon. She didn't intimidate. She simply lowered her veil for a fraction of a second, letting him see her face. Harold gasped. Operative Vera? You. The news said you were a monster. Vera looked at him with a sadness that was entirely genuine. Do I look like a monster, Harold? Or do I look like a woman who found out the truth? Harold looked around nervously. They are going to kill people, he whispered. The purity squads. They are planting charges in the lower sector. They are going to blow up their own citizens just to make a point. I know, Vera said softly. Help me stop it. I need the access codes to the temple sublevels. Harold hesitated. He looked at the golden banners, then at the terrified families in the crowd. He tapped his datapad and transferred a code to Vera's wrist comp. The code is meant for waste disposal, Harold whispered. It will get you in the back door. Burn them. Vera, burn it all down. Thank you, Vera said. They slipped away, moving toward the rear of the massive temple structure. The waste disposal entrance was unguarded, but the corridor beyond was not. They descended into the belly of the Capitol. The marble and gold gave way to sterile white steel. This was the cradle annex. They turned a corner and froze. Standing guard in front of a blast door were two soldiers. They wore faceless helmets and stood perfectly still. They didn't breathe. Silent soldiers, Vera whispered, memory wiped, pain suppressed. They are not people anymore. They are meat automatons. Cal reached for his blaster. Don't, Vera said. They are linked to the central alarm. If their heart rates drop to 0, the building locks down. We have to bypass them. How? Vera looked at the ventilation grid above them. We don't. We go over. They climbed into the shafts. It was a tight squeeze. Cal crawled ahead, M0X trailing behind them, scanning for laser trips. They dropped down into the main laboratory. The room was vast and freezing. Rows of suspended animation pods stretched into the darkness. Inside them were humans. Some were asleep. Some were screaming in silence. Cal walked down the rows, his face a mask of horror. He saw people he recognized from the border colonies, and a baker, a mechanic, a child. They are trophies, Cal whispered. He stopped at a terminal. He plugged in his decoder. I am searching for Elara, he said. The screen scrolled through data. Subject, Elara Rook. Status, harvest complete. Genetic material transferred to Project Air. Biological shell, discarded. Cal stared at the words. Discarded. His knees buckled. He grabbed the console to stay upright. She is gone. He choked out. They used her up and threw her away. Vera felt his grief through the bond. It was a black wave, cold and suffocating. She put a hand on his back. Cal, she said, her voice fierce. She is not gone. Her genetic code is in the air. A part of her is still alive up there on that stage. And we are going to save what is left. Cal looked at her. His eyes were red, but the despair was hardening into a cold fury. You are right, he said. We take it all. We take every file. We expose every lie. Suddenly, the room bathed in red light. A klaxon began to wail. Intruder alert. A computerized voice droned. Sector 9. Purge protocols initiated. They found us, Vera said. Blast doors at the far end of the lab hissed open. A squad of silent soldiers marched in, their weapons raised. We are trapped, Cal shouted. Vera looked around. There was only one way out, the main data server room at the end of the catwalk. But to get there, they had to cross open ground under fire. Run, Vera yelled. She drew her pulse pistol and fired, taking out the knee of the lead soldier. They sprinted down the narrow corridor between the pods. Plasma bolts sizzled past them, exploding against the glass tanks. They reached the heavy door of the server room. It was locked. Mem-0X, open it, Cal screamed, firing blindly behind him to suppress the soldiers. I am trying, M0X yelled. The encryption is rude. It is using insults as passwords. Vera spun around, activating her kinetic shield. It shimmered into existence, absorbing a volley of fire. The shield whined, its energy depleting rapidly. We have 10 seconds before this shield fails, Vera said calmly. She looked at Cal. He was sweating, terrified, but he wasn't looking at the exit. He was looking at her. Vera turned to him. The noise of the battle faded into the background. She grabbed him by the lapels of his diplomatic jacket. Cal, she said. He looked at her. Yeah? If we die here, I need you to know something. Not the time for a eulogy. Vera, it is not a eulogy, she snapped. She pulled him close, her eyes searching his. The bond between them flared hot and bright. You asked me once why I didn't turn you in, she said. She gripped him tighter, her knuckles white. You want a real mate, she whispered, her voice cutting through the siren's wail. Then prove it. She didn't wait for an answer. She kissed him. It wasn't a soft kiss. It was a collision. It was desperate, furious, and alive. It tasted of adrenaline and ozone. It was a declaration of war against the universe that said they shouldn't exist. For a second, the fear vanished. There was only the heat of him, the steady thump of his heart against hers. She broke the kiss, breathless, her forehead resting against his. If I fall, she commanded, you run. You take the data and you run. Cal stared at her. He looked at the soldiers advancing. He looked at the shield flickering. No, he said. He grabbed her hand and raised his blaster. We walk out of here together, or we make them carry us out. Got it! M0X screeched. The server room door hissed open, and they dove inside just as Vera's shield collapsed. A hail of plasma fire scorched the door frame as M0X slammed the lock back in place. They were safe. For a moment, the room was dominated by a massive pillar of blue light, the master archive of Project Cradle. Do it, Vera said. Cal jacked the data core into the mainframe, uploading to the public grid. He said, I am bypassing the censorship filters. I am sending it to every screen, every data pad, every whole ad in the Dominion. The progress bar filled 20%, 50% on the screen. Files began to flash by. Names, dates, genetic profiles. Vera watched the stream of data. Wait, she said. Stop. She pointed to a file that had just scrolled past. It was tagged with a high security clearance. Subject, Prototype 01. Designation, Vera. Cal froze. He looked at her. Open it, Vera whispered. Cal hesitated. Vera, maybe we shouldn't... Open it! He tapped the file. A video log appeared. It was dated 30 years ago. A younger version of High Inquisitor Kalen was speaking to a camera. The initial tests are promising. The recording said, We have successfully spliced human adaptive genes into an Aurelian embryo. The subject shows enhanced empathy and high mate bond latency. We will place her in the general population. We will monitor her. She is the proof of concept. If she can bond, then the heir project is viable. The recording ended. Vera stepped back. She hit the wall and slid down it. She wasn't just a soldier who had been lied to. She was a product. "I am not real," she whispered. Her voice was hollow. "I am a prototype. My loyalty, my skills, even my feelings for you, it was all engineered. I was built to fall for a human." She looked at her hands as if they belonged to a stranger. "I am just code, Cal. I am just a wetware program running a simulation." Cal knelt beside her. He took her hands. "Look at me." Vera shook her head. "It is fake. All of it." "Is the pain fake?" Cal asked. "Is the anger fake?" He placed her hand on his chest, right over his heart. "Is this fake?" Vera looked at him. "Programs don't disobey their creators." "Vera," Cal said softly, "programs don't risk their lives to save a scavenger. You broke your programming the moment you spared me. You chose this." He wiped a smudge of dirt from her cheek. "You are not a prototype. You are the woman who broke the machine." Vera looked at him. The bond hummed, warm, steady, and undeniably hers. Kalen might have built the hardware, but the software, the soul, that was hers. She took a deep breath. She stood up. "Upload it," she said. "All of it. Let them see what they made." Cal hit the final key. Upload complete. Outside, in the city above, chaos erupted. Millions of screens shifted from the unveiling ceremony to the raw, unedited footage of the labs, the pods, the experiments, the file on Vera, the file on Ilara. The lie was dead, but the council was not. The screens in the server room flickered. The face of the High Council leader appeared. He was standing on the podium, backlit by the chaos of the unveiling. "Citizens," his voice boomed, overriding the leaked footage. "Do not be deceived by these fabrications. We have identified the source of this digital attack." The screen shifted to show a live security feed of the server room. It showed Vera and Cal. "The traitor Vera and her human pet have been cornered." The leader announced, "They are currently beneath the temple. We are sealing the exits." Vera watched the screen. "They will be brought to the stage," the leader declared, "and in 10 minutes, Operative Vera will be executed live on this broadcast. Her death will be the final purification. Let the galaxy watch what happens to those who reject our perfection." The feed cut. Silence filled the room. "They know exactly where we are," Cal said. Vera checked her weapon. It had half a charge left. "They want a show," she said. She looked at Cal. There was no fear left in her, only a cold, crystalline resolve. "They want to show the galaxy a execution," she said. She walked to the door. "Let's go up there and show them a revolution instead." The plan was not elegant. It was a desperate, jagged thing, stitched together with stolen codes and the frantic hope of people who had nothing left to lose. In the 30 minutes between the upload of the Cradle files and the Council's retaliation, Vera and Cal had not run. Instead, they had used the server room's comms array to light a beacon. They didn't call for an army. They called for the broken. They broadcast a frequency known only to the smugglers of the asteroid belt, the disgraced soldiers of the Outer Rim, and the families in the Undercity who whispered the names of their missing children in the dark. Senator Jax had answered. So had the smugglers. So had a dozen captains of the Dominion fleet who had seen one too many training accidents involving human settlements. Now, the grand amphitheater of Ethelgard was the stage for the end of the world. It was a colossal bowl of white marble and gold, floating above the city center like a crown. 100,000 citizens packed the stands, their faces illuminated by the soft, mandatory glow of euphoria emitters. Above them, floating thrones of crystalline glass held the High Council, looking down with the bored benevolence of gods. Vera knelt in the center of the dais. She had surrendered. It was the only way to get close to the broadcast hub without being vaporized by the perimeter drones. She wore heavy Durasteel restraints on her wrists and ankles. Her diplomatic robes had been torn away, leaving her in the black undersuit of a prisoner. Her head was bowed, but her eyes were open, watching the boots of the Praetorian Guard circling her. The air smelled of ozone and expensive incense, masking the rot beneath. High Counselor Valerius stood at the podium. He was a vision of Aurelian perfection, tall, silver-skinned, his voice amplified to boom across the city like thunder. "Citizens," Valerius intoned, "we stand at the precipice. The terrorists who attacked our data grid today seek to poison your minds. They offer you lies fabricated in the gutters of human space. They seek to tell you that purity is a weakness." He gestured to Vera. "Behold the proof of their corruption. Vera, once a daughter of the Spire. Now, a confused, broken vessel, seduced by the chaotic biology of the enemy. She is not a revolutionary. She is a tragedy, a warning of what happens when we lower our walls. From the shadows of the technical riggings 50 feet above the stage." Cal Rook watched. He was dressed in the gray, nondescript jumpsuit of a lighting technician, a disguise fabricated by Harrell's access codes. His heart was hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He gripped a hydro spanner so hard his knuckles were white. Every instinct screamed at him to jump, to swing down on the cable, shoot the guard, and drag Vera out of there. Not yet. Vera's voice whispered in his mind. It wasn't telepathy, it was the bond, a phantom sensation of her will pressing against his panic. Wait for the signal. Cal forced his breathing to steady. He looked at the technician next to him, a nervous Aurelian kid who was more interested in his data pad than the execution. "Hey," Cal whispered. "You seeing these power fluctuations on the audio grid?" The kid blinked. "What? No. The grid is stable. M0X, Cal muttered into his collar. "You are up. Don't mess this up. I am an artist," M0X replied, his voice tinny in Cal's ear. "I am painting with voltage." High Counselor Valerius raised his hands. The crowd hushed. "We will cleanse this stain," Valerius proclaimed. "We will restore order. Let the anthem of purity play. And as the final note sounds, let the execution be carried out." The massive holographic orchestra raised their instruments. The conductor brought his baton down, but instead of the soaring, ethereal harmonies of the Dominion anthem, the speakers blasted a wall of distortion. And then, clear as a bell, a human voice crooned over a jaunty acoustic guitar. "Oh, baby, I need your love." It was a human pop song from 3 centuries ago, cheesy, sentimental, and utterly out of place. The music blared for exactly 3 seconds. The crowd gasped. The High Counselor froze, his mouth open. A ripple of nervous, confused laughter bubbled up from the lower tiers, a sound that was alien in this place of scripted reverence. "Whoops," M0X's voice cut in. "Wrong playlist. My bad." Resuming ominous atmosphere now, the music cut abruptly, replaced by the correct anthem. But the damage was done. The tension had snapped. The godlike aura of the council had been punctured by a 3-second accidental serenade. Valerius looked furious. He glared at the tech booth. "Proceed," he shouted, his voice cracking slightly. Vera looked up. She caught Cal's eye in the rigging. She didn't smile, but her eyes were fierce. Now, down in the foundations of the amphitheater, the human attack began. But it wasn't humans. Cal saw the readings on his stolen data pad. The Council's own demolition drones were priming charges at the base of the civilian sectors. They are going to blow the stands, Cal realized. They are going to kill 5,000 of their own people and blame it on us. He tapped his comms. Harold, you ready? I am at the junction. Harold's terrified voice came back. I think I can reroute the trigger. Do it, Cal hissed. On the stage, a squad of purity enforcement officers marched out, carrying heavy suppression rifles. They weren't aiming at Vera. They were aiming at the crowd. Terrorists! Valerius shouted, pointing to the stands. There are bombers in the crowd. Purity enforcement. Neutralize the threat. Panic rippled through the audience. People screamed, pushing toward the exits, but the blast doors slammed shut. Cal didn't wait. He vaulted over the railing of the lighting rig. He didn't swing down to Vera. He swung toward the massive holographic projector that loomed over the stage. He landed on the casing, ripped open the maintenance panel, and jacked his decoder directly into the feed. Attention! Cal yelled, his voice amplified by the hacked system. The crowd looked up. Valerius looked up. Look at the detonators, Cal shouted, projecting the schematic of the explosives onto the giant screens intended for the execution. Look at the frequency code. It is not human tech. It is Council ordnance. He highlighted the serial numbers. They are blowing up the stadium, Cal roared. Valerius is doing it. Valerius turned pale. Cut the feed. Shoot him. But the guards hesitated. They looked at the screens. They saw the codes. They recognized their own military encryption. In that moment of hesitation, Vera moved. The guard standing to her right, a sleeper agent loyal to Senator Jax, tossed her a key. She caught it mid-air, snapped the wrist restraints, and spun. She kicked the legs out from under the nearest loyalist guard, grabbed his rifle, and fired a stun blast into the chest of the executioner. She didn't run for cover. She ran for the center of the stage. She stood next to Valerius, who recoiled as if she were radioactive. Vera grabbed the council leader by his pristine robes and shoved him toward the cameras. Tell them, Vera commanded, her voice amplified to the millions watching. Tell them what you were about to do, Valerius spluttered. She is lying. She is contaminated. Cal slid down the cable, landing on the stage with a heavy thud. He stumbled, righting himself, and ran to Vera's side. He wasn't wearing armor. He wasn't hiding. He was just a man in a dirty jumpsuit standing next to the most dangerous woman in the galaxy. Vera looked at him. The bond flared, a hot, golden reassurance. She holstered the rifle. She reached out and grabbed Cal's jacket. And then, in front of the High Council, in front of the screaming crowd, in front of the entire Dominion, she pulled him against her. It wasn't a quick grab. It was deliberate. She pulled him flush against her body, her hand tangling in his hair, his arm going around her waist to steady her. The gasp from the crowd sucked the air out of the amphitheater. It was the ultimate taboo, physical, intimate contact between the species. Vera looked into the camera drone hovering above them. You call this contamination? She asked, her voice steady, though tears of rage burned in her eyes. She held up Cal's hand, showing the glowing violet sigil of the mate bond on his wrist. This is not a sickness. It is biology. It is the truth you tried to bury. She pointed to the screens where the cradle footage was now playing on a loop, thanks to M0X's tireless hacking. Look at the pods, Vera screamed. Look at the children you stole. You didn't build the walls to keep humans out. You built them to turn this city into a farm. You are harvesting them to fix what you broke in yourselves. Valerius lunged for a weapon concealed in the podium. Vera didn't even look. She backhanded him, a blow enhanced by her rage, sending him sprawling across the stage. Activate the crowd control field, Valeria shrieked from the floor. Mind wipe them all. A massive energy dome began to shimmer over the amphitheater. The crowd screamed as the neural dampeners powered up. It was a field designed to erase short-term memory, to reboot the population into compliance. M0X, Vera yelled. I am on it. M0X beeped from the sound system, reversing polarity, turning the suppression field into a projection surface. Smile. You are on galactic television. The dome didn't suppress them. Instead, it turned into a massive mirror. It reflected the footage of the labs, magnified 1,000 times, projecting it into the sky above the city. The entire capital looked up and saw the truth written in the clouds. The soldiers on the stage wavered. Captain! Valeria screamed at the head of the Praetorian Guard. Kill them! The captain looked at the sky. He looked at the DNA profiles of the stolen children. He looked at his own daughter, sitting in the front row of the stands. He lowered his rifle. No, the captain said. Chaos erupted. Not a riot, but an awakening. The crowd surged over the barriers. Civilians tackled the purity enforcement officers who were trying to detonate the charges. The silent soldiers, their control links severed by Harrell in the control room, stood confused, weapons dropping from their hands. It is over, Vera said, looking down at Valerius. Valerius laughed. It was a wet, broken sound. Over? You think this is over? You think you can break the design? He reached into his robe and pulled out a remote. I didn't want to use her yet, Valerius whispered. She is not finished, but she will serve. He pressed the button. The containment unit behind the thrones hissed. Cold steam flooded the stage. The heavy blast doors of the unit groaned open. A figure stepped out. She was breathtaking. She was tall, with skin like porcelain and hair that floated as if underwater. She wore armor of white gold. Her eyes were solid violet, glowing with raw psionic power. She moved with a fluid, terrifying grace, leveling a spear of pure energy at Vera. She was the perfect Aurelian heir. But Cal froze. He took a step forward, ignoring Vera's warning hand. Ilara, he whispered. The heir tilted her head. Her face was blank, erased of all expression. She looked at Cal like he was a target on a range. Target identified, the heir said. Her voice was beautiful and empty. Human contaminant. Eliminate. She raised the spear. Energy gathered at the tip, bright enough to blind. Ilara! Cal shouted, dropping his weapon. It is me! It is Cal! The heir didn't blink. She stepped forward, the spear humming. Vera stepped in front of Cal, activating her shield. Cal, get back. She has been conditioned. She doesn't know you. She knows me. Cal yelled. He pushed past Vera. He walked straight toward the spear. Cal, stop! Cal didn't stop. He walked until the tip of the energy spear was an inch from his chest. The heat of it singed his jumpsuit. He looked into the heir's eyes. They were violet. Yes. But the shape was the same. Ilara, Cal said, his voice shaking. You promised. You promised you wouldn't leave without saying goodbye. Remember? The treehouse. The storm. You promised. The heir's hand trembled. The spear wavered. Eliminate, she whispered. But the command lacked force. You used to call me Sparky, Cal said, tears streaming down his face. Because I shocked myself trying to fix the toaster, remember? The heir blinked, a glitch in the perfection. Sparky? She whispered. The word was a ghost, a fragment of a deleted file. Ilara flinched. She dropped the spear. She brought her hands up to her head, screaming silently as the conditioning fought against the memory. She looked at Cal. The violet glow in her eyes faded for a second, revealing the human brown underneath. Cal, She choked out, "It hurts. Cal, it hurts." Cal reached for her. He pulled her into a hug. "I got you," he sobbed. "I got you." Ilara stiffened. She had been trained for 2 years to fear touch, to view biology as pain. She flinched violently, her body seizing up. But she didn't pull away. She cracked. A single tear cut through the perfect porcelain makeup on her cheek. She let out a broken, ragged breath that was entirely human. Vera watched them. The perfect weapon, the savior of the Dominion, crying in the arms of a salvager. The lie didn't just break, it shattered. The crowd watched in stunned silence. The image of the heir, their god queen, hugging a human was broadcast across the entire city. Valerius saw it. He saw the end of his world. "If we cannot control it," he snarled, pulling a secondary device from his belt, "then we burn it." He keyed a code into the device. Scorched Earth Protocol initiated, a mechanical voice announced over the amphitheater speakers. "What did you do?" Vera shouted, grabbing Valerius. "I sanitized the lab," Valerius spat. "The orbital defense grid is retargeting, not outward, inward." He looked at the sky, the broadcast grid, the witnesses, the capital. "In 3 minutes, the orbital cannons will fire. We will wipe this city off the map before we let it be contaminated." Sirens began to wail, different ones this time. The air raid sirens, high above the city. The massive orbital guns of the Purity Defense Network began to rotate, aiming their barrels down at the amphitheater. Vera looked at Cal, who was holding his sister. She looked at the crowd of thousands, trapped in the bowl. "We have to stop those guns," Vera said. "How?" Cal asked, looking up at the sky. "They are in orbit." Vera looked at the central spire rising in the distance. "The control node." "We don't go to orbit," she said. "We go to the brain." She grabbed the energy spear Ilara had dropped. "M0X, get the transport pod. We are going to the spire." Ilara looked up. Her eyes were still confused, shifting between violet and brown, but she saw the guns in the sky. "I can help," she whispered. Her voice was layered, 2 tones speaking at once. "I have the codes. They put them inside me." Vera extended her hand to the girl who was meant to replace her. "Then come with us. Air. Let's go break some laws." Cal supported his sister. Vera took point. They ran toward the waiting transport, leaving the ruins of the ceremony behind them, racing against the sky that was preparing to fall. The Scorched Earth Protocol did not begin with a bang. It began with a hum, a low, resonant vibration that shook the teeth in their sockets and rattled the stained glass of the grand amphitheater. Then, the ground tore open. From the maintenance grates, the sewers, and the hidden silos beneath the boulevards, the drones rose. They were not the clumsy spherical maintenance bots M0X mocked. These were arachnids, multi-legged, razor-sharp hunter-killers plated in matte black. They poured out of the earth like a metal tide, climbing over the panicked crowds, their optical sensors glowing a lethal, indiscriminate red. The sky above turned the color of a bruise. The orbital cannons were locking on. The council wasn't just suppressing a riot, they were sterilizing the wound. "Move," Vera shouted, her voice cutting through the scream of the city. She grabbed Cal by the harness of his technician's jumpsuit and shoved him toward the service exit. Ilara, the unveiled heir, stumbled beside them, her golden armor clinking, her eyes wide with a terrifying mix of confusion and programmed tactical awareness. "We have to get to the spire," Vera commanded. "The central broadcast node is the only thing linking the drones to the orbital grid. If we shut it down, the cannons lose their targeting solution." They sprinted out of the amphitheater and into a nightmare. The plaza was a kill box. The arachnids were firing plasma bolts into the fleeing civilians. A group of dignitaries in shimmering robes were cornered against a fountain. screaming as a drone raised its scythe-like forelegs. Vera didn't hesitate. She raised the energy spear she had taken from Ilara. "Keep moving," she ordered Cal. She broke formation, sliding across the marble pavement. She thrust the spear upward, driving the tip through the drone's sensor cluster. The machine shrieked a digital death rattle and collapsed, sparking wildly. Vera turned to the dignitaries. These were the people who had cheered for her execution 5 minutes ago. They looked at her with horror, expecting her to finish what the drone had started. "Go!" Vera roared, pointing to the subway tunnels. "Get underground!" The heat signatures are masked there. One of the dignitaries, a woman clutching a child, stared at her. "You are saving us? I am not your counsel." Vera snapped. "I do not kill the innocent to prove a point. Now run!" She turned back to rejoin Cal, but the path was blocked by falling debris, a holographic billboard, flickering with the council's purity slogan, crashed down, separating them. "Cal," Vera yelled into her comms. "I am here!" Cal's voice came back, breathless but steady. "I am flanking left. I have got Ilara. We are heading for the suspension bridge." Vera scrambled over the burning wreckage. She saw Cal through the smoke. He wasn't running away. He was carrying a wounded purity enforcement officer, one of the men who had been shooting at them earlier, over his shoulder, dragging him to cover while Ilara provided suppression fire with a stolen pistol. Cal dropped the soldier behind a concrete barrier and checked the man's pulse. He is terrified. Vera realized the bond between them was a frantic drumbeat of fear. But he wasn't afraid for himself. He was afraid of failing the people around him. He looked up, saw her, and grinned through the soot on his face. "You wanted a hero?" Cal shouted over the roar of the drones. "You got a delivery service instead." Vera felt a surge of emotion so strong it nearly knocked her off her feet. This was the man the council called a contaminant. This human, bleeding and exhausted, saving the very soldiers who despised him, simply because they were breathing. "He is worth 10 of us," she thought. They reunited at the bridge. The central control spire loomed ahead, a needle of white light piercing the storm clouds. "The bridge is out," M0X beeped, hovering near Vera's ear. "Structural integrity is at 12%. Also, there are 3 hunter-killers on the other side looking very unfriendly." "We jump," Vera said. "Are you insane?" Cal asked, looking at the 1,000-foot drop into the city's lower levels. "Physics is a suggestion," Vera said. "Ilara, the gravity dampeners." Ilara nodded. Her conditioning was breaking, but her knowledge remained. She raised her hands and the violet energy of the air flowed from her fingertips, wrapping around Vera and Cal. "Jump!" They leaped into the void. The dampeners caught them, turning a lethal fall into a floating glide. They landed on the spire's entrance platform, rolling to absorb the impact. The 3 hunter-killers turned. Vera stood up, the energy spear humming. "Cal, get the door," she said calmly. Cal ran to the control panel. Vera and Ilara stood back to back. "Left side," Ilara shouted, her voice echoing the dual tone of the relic. Vera spun, parrying a plasma bolt with the shaft of the spear. She lunged, piercing the first drone. Ilara blasted the second with a wave of telekinetic force, crushing its chassis against the wall. The third drone leaped for Cal. Cal didn't look up from the keypad. He didn't flinch. He trusted them. Vera threw the spear. It flew past Cal's ear, missing him by inches, and impaled the drone, pinning it to the door frame. "Door unlocked," Cal announced, hitting the final key. They burst inside. The interior of the spire was not a building. It was a biological machine. The walls were lined with pulsing neural fibers, glowing with the same violet light that marked Vera's skin. They ran up the spiral ramp, ascending toward the core. This isn't just a broadcast tower, Cal said, looking at the walls. It is feeling. It is the obedience grid, Vera said grimly. It projects a subconscious frequency: fear, compliance, apathy. They amplify it here and beam it down to the population. They reached the core chamber. The doors slid open, revealing a room that defied geometry. In the center, suspended in a magnetic field, was the master relic. It was a massive, beating heart of crystalline light, far larger than the one in the sublevels. It throbbed with a dark, sickly purple rhythm. Standing before it, watching the city burn on a wall of screens, was Valerius. The council leader turned. He looked tired. He looked disappointed. "You possess such potential, Vera," Valerius said, his voice amplified by the room's acoustics. "And you waste it on chaos." He gestured to the burning city below. "Look at them. Without the grid, without the guidance, they destroy themselves. They riot. They panic. They are animals. They are waking up," Vera said, stepping forward. "And you are terrified because you cannot control a population that thinks for itself. I offer you peace," Valerius said. He tapped the console. The screens shifted. The orbital guns paused in their rotation. "I can stop the scorched earth protocol," Valerius said softly. "I can recall the drones. All you have to do is step onto that platform." He pointed to a dais connected to the relic. "Become the symbol. Vera, let us broadcast your face. Tell them the human attack was real. Tell them you saved them. Restore the order." He looked at Cal. "And the human? You can keep him. A private indulgence. We will look the other way. You can have your love. Vera, you can have your life. All you have to do is let us keep the lie." It was a perfect trap. It was everything she had wanted in the dark of the capsule. Safety, Cal, a future. Cal looked at her. He didn't speak. He didn't beg her to refuse. He stood with his hands at his sides, battered and bloody, waiting for her to choose. He proved his love by letting her define her own soul. Vera looked at Valerius. "A private indulgence," she repeated. Valerius smiled. "We are pragmatic. Happiness is a small price to pay for stability." Vera looked at Cal. She looked at the glowing mark on his wrist. "You do not understand," she whispered. She stepped closer to Valerius. "Love is not an indulgence," she said, her voice rising. "It is not something you keep in a cage. It is the reason you fight. And peace built on a lie is just a prison with invisible bars." She raised her hand. "I refuse." Valerius's smile vanished. "Then you are of no use to the design." He pressed a button on his desk. The room's defense turrets dropped from the ceiling, locking onto them. "Goodbye." "Vera!" "Wait!" a voice shouted from the shadows of the upper gantry. Valerius looked up, startled. A figure dropped from the ceiling, landing in a crouch between Vera and the turrets. It was a woman in black stealth armor. She stood up, removing her helmet to reveal sharp features and eyes that mirrored Vera's own. "Nixia," Vera gasped. "Nixia, you are his shadow guard." "I was," Nixia said. She looked at Valerius with cold contempt. "Until I read the file you left on the server. Vera, the one about the prototypes." Nixia turned to Vera. "We were batchmates. Vera, we grew up in the same creche. We trained together. I thought I was better than you because I was pure." She ripped off her glove, revealing a hand that was shaking. "But my file was in that dump too. I am not pure. I am prototype 04. Just like you," Valerius snarled. "You are defective tools. Turrets. Fire." Nixia raised a device in her hand. "I am not a tool. High Counselor, I am the one who maintains your security grid. She pressed the trigger. The turrets powered down. Their targeting sensors scrambled. Now! Vera! Nixia shouted. Overload the core! Vera ran to the master relic. Cal was already there, M0X plugging into the interface. We need a signal, Cal yelled. We can't just shut it off. The system will reboot. We have to replace the data. Valerius drew a disruptor pistol, firing wildly. Nixia engaged him. Two elite operatives moving in a blur of hand-to-hand combat. What do we broadcast? Ilara asked, her hands hovering over the relic. Truth, Vera said. She grabbed Cal's hand. She placed her other hand on the relic. M0X. Upload the archives. Not just the cradle files. Everything. The names of the missing. The testimonies of the soldiers who vanished. The letters home that were never sent. Uploading. M0X shrieked, preparing to hit them right in the feels. Vera looked at Cal. Push it, she said. Push it all into the grid. They focused. Vera used her connection to the relic, the trait she was bred for. But she didn't use it to suppress. She used it to amplify. She poured her anger into the machine. She poured her grief. She poured the feeling of Cal's hand in hers. The terrified, illogical, beautiful reality of loving someone she wasn't supposed to. The relic turned from purple to blinding gold. The spire shook. Outside, the drones froze. The signal hit the city. It wasn't a voice. It was a memory. Every citizen in Ethelgard suddenly knew. They didn't just hear the news. They felt the loss. A mother in the lower district felt the exact moment her son died in a lab. A soldier on the bridge felt the fear of the human he was about to shoot. The collective grief of 50 years of silence crashed into the population at once. The orbital guns stopped. The gunners couldn't fire. They were weeping. In the core, the console exploded in a shower of sparks. Valerius, distracted by the psychic backlash, was pinned to the ground by Nixia. It is done, Vera whispered, slumping against the console. The silence that followed was heavy. It wasn't the silence of obedience. It was the silence of a funeral. Cal caught her before she fell. You did it, he said. You broke the world. Vera looked at the screen. The drones were powering down, collapsing into inert metal heaps. The crowd in the amphitheater wasn't cheering. They were standing still, helping each other up, looking at the sky with eyes that were finally, painfully clear. They are not celebrating, Vera noted. No, Cal said softly. They are grieving. That is the first step. The aftermath was a blur of triage and treaties. With Valerius in custody and the truth laid bare, the council dissolved. Not legally, but practically. No one obeyed the orders anymore. The purity enforcement officers threw down their helmets and joined the relief efforts. 3 days later, the smoke had cleared over Ethelgard. Vera stood on the landing pad of the spire, watching the sun set through the shattered skyline. Her arm was in a sling, and the exhaustion went down to her bones. Cal walked up behind her. He was clean, finally, wearing a jacket that actually fit. He stood beside her, looking out at the city. They are calling it the Awakening, Cal said. Catchy name. Better than the big mess. How is Ilara? Vera asked. Cal's smile faded. She is struggling. The conditioning is gone, but the memories of what she did, what they made her do, they are still there. He leaned against the railing. She is leaving. Vera, there is a ship of survivors heading to the Outer Rim, a colony where no one asks who you were, only who you want to be. She wants to go with them. She says she needs to learn how to be human again, and she can't do it here. Not where everyone looks at her and sees a god. Vera looked at him. You are letting her go? Cal nodded slowly. I spent 2 years trying to save her. I thought saving her meant bringing her home. But saving her means letting her choose, even if she chooses to leave me. He looked at Vera. Love isn't possession, right? It is action. Vera looked at his wrist. The violet sigil she had placed there was faint, but steady. You proved it, she said. Cal looked down at the mark. So, what happens now? The council is gone. The laws are burning. You are technically the highest-ranking authority left who isn't in a cell. I am resigning, Vera said. Nixia can handle the transition. She has the patience for politics. I do not. Then what will you do? Vera pushed off the railing. She turned to face him. The wreckage of the amphitheater lay below them, a scar on the city. But green vines from the Whispering Weald were already starting to creep over the rubble. Life was reclaiming the stone. Vera reached out and took Cal's hand. She pressed her thumb against the glowing mark on his wrist, her own bioluminescence flaring to match it. The bond hummed, a song of two distinct melodies weaving into one. I told them that law without empathy is violence, Vera said softly. And I told them that love without courage is fantasy. She looked into his copper eyes. I am done with fantasy. Cal, I want the reality, the danger, the mess, the arguments about your terrible piloting. Hey, Cal protested weakly. Vera smiled. It was the first time she had smiled without a shadow behind it. I want to see the border, she said. The real border, where the Dominion ends and the rest of the galaxy begins. I want to see what we can build when we are not afraid. Cal grinned, the reckless, charming grin of the salvager she had met in the museum. Well, lucky for you, I know a guy with a ship. It is missing a few parts, and the navigation computer has an attitude problem, but it flies. M0X hovered down from the roof, buzzing happily. I have already packed the snacks, the drone announced, and I have deleted all the council anthems from the playlist. We are listening to jazz for the next 6 light years. Deal with it. Vera laughed. She pulled Cal close, not for a camera, not for a crowd, but for herself. Let's go, she said. They stood at the perimeter gate of the Dominion system. It was a massive ring of metal floating in the void. The threshold between the ordered space of the Aurelians and the wild chaos of the human sectors. For 50 years, this gate had been closed, a wall of silence. Today, it was open. A small, battered scout ship drifted toward the threshold, inside the cockpit. Vera watched the stars stretch out before them. They were infinite. They were terrifying. Cal sat in the pilot's seat, his hand resting on the throttle. He looked over at her. Ready to be a fugitive again? He asked. Vera looked at the screen. The status indicator for their ship didn't say fugitive. It didn't say target. For the first time in history, the tag read, Citizens of the Coalition. We are not fugitives, Cal, Vera said. She placed her hand over his on the controls. We are partners. They pushed the throttle forward together. The ship surged, engines flaring bright against the dark, crossing the line where the map ended, and the future began.